As if the Ahmedabad air disaster, clubbed one of the worst in aviation history, was not enough. Passengers flying to India have recently had to undergo harrowing experiences, particularly on board Boeing Dreamliners. The first of these, a Chennai-bound British Airways Boeing Dreamliner, which returned to London due to a technical snag on Sunday. The flight landed safely with crew and passengers disembarking as they normally would, and that's according to a statement from British Airways. The development assumes significance days after the Boeing Dreamliner crash in Ahmedabad, which killed 241 passengers and crew members on board. Air India flight AI 315 en route from Hong Kong to Delhi was forced to return to its origin after the pilot suspected a technical issue mid-air. The flight, operated by a Boeing Dreamliner, departed from Hong Kong for Delhi, and a bomb threat email targeting Lufthansa flight LH752 was received at the Hyderabad airport at 6 p.m. on the 15th of June. Bomb Threat Assessment Committee has been formed and all procedures were followed according to the Standard Operating Procedure or SOP, and in the interest of safety, the airline was advised to divert back to the origin or the nearest suitable airport according to official sources. On the morning of the 15th of June, smoke was detected from the wheels of a Saudi aircraft that landed in the Lucknow airport from Jeddah. The aircraft rescue and firefighting team, or ARFF team, rushed to the spot. Working with the Saudi team, the smoke was contained and damage to the aircraft was averted, and the passengers were deboarded safely, and there was no impact on airport operations. And to understand all the recent surge in air turbulences, we have Captain Ishan Khalid, aviation expert. We have Dr. Vandana Singh, chairperson, Aviation Cargo Federation of Aviation Industry in India, also joining us. For now, let's take this across to Captain Ishan Khalid. Captain Ishan Khalid, you're seeing multiple cases, and all of them seem to be technical snags with the aircraft per se, and that's the most worrisome part.
Okay, this report that there was a subcontractor, vendor, or a part manufacturer of Boeing not supplying the parts to the required manufacturing standards, okay, has been around for over last 4 or 5 years, and that specifically the report that you are mentioning of the Italian part manufacturer MPS via Leonardo, such aircraft parts manufacturing companies actually supply small parts to almost all the aviation companies across the world. That means a company like this, Leonardo or MPS, could be supplying to Airbus also, to Boeing also, to Embraer also, and Gulfstream and Bombardier also, and to their specifications, because it is really very difficult to meet the standards laid down for an aviation parts manufacturing company. So once they meet that standard, they supply to all the aircraft manufacturers. So in this regards, I was going through an insurance report that said that this company probably supplied 4,000 faulty parts or substandard parts to Boeing company over whatever last decade. But what is also right perspective is that none of those parts were actually responsible for any kind of failure or aircraft accident or incident, because to the best of my knowledge that I can see, those parts were onto the floor plates, and so they were neither the structural parts nor electronics parts. But I'm not saying that those parts aren't important and they shouldn't be looked at. But what I'm saying is, if such a manufacturing company which is supplying to Boeing would also be supplying to Airbus also, okay, that stringent action should be taken. It must have been taken. I'm not privy to it because this particular thing came up almost 4 or 5 years back. To the best of my knowledge, this company was blacklisted and stopped. But it is very difficult to get a second vendor online in a short time, because the exact same parts will have to be now manufactured by another vendor, and it is a problem. There is another aircraft which has a problem of manufacturing quality of the windshield. Okay, so now if they want to go from one to another company to make the same manufacturing part, is a very difficult process and
Okay.
tedious process. But they would. In this case, the Boeing has discontinued this services of this subcontractor or vendor, and that way the safety factor that was known has probably been corrected to the best of my
Right,
knowledge.
right, right. Stay with us, Captain Ishan Khalid. We also have been joined by Dr. Vandana Singh, Chairperson, Aviation Cargo Federation of Aviation Industry in India. Thank you so much for being with us. Before I come to you, we were talking about how Boeing has more often than not cited air turbulence as the likely cause of mishaps involving the Boeing Dreamliner, and the case goes much beyond that into faulty parts and cheap, flawed titanium and aluminium parts manufactured in Italy. A chance police discovery has resulted in a judicial investigation which has the following elements. Italian subcontractor who supplied faulty parts for Boeing jets between the years of 2017 and 2020 via Leonardo. Prosecutors passed repeated audits while allegedly using low-grade metals. And court documents are alleging a scam that's uncovered thanks to a chance police discovery. And sources say industry experts are calling for random checks on aviation components. Dr. Vandana Singh, right now, the focus is clearly on the parts which have been manufactured, which are leading to these technical faults, which can cause great danger in the air. Couple of times, thanks to good pilots, we've been able to avert them. But unfortunately, like the Ahmedabad air tragedy, there are times when even the best of pilots can't do much.
Thank you for having me on your show, Krishna, and it's an honor again. Now, coming to Boeing and what we are reading, all of this that is coming out on faulty spare parts, I've always maintained and I always say that we should have, independent, long-term, what do you call, third-party inspections. We should have audits, surprise audits, because at the end of the day, when a vendor is chosen or a third-party supplier is chosen to make certain parts, then I'm sure the checklist is again seen. The quality is again inspected. You do not expect that from a company like Boeing to get on cheap manufacturers or cheap third party suppliers. You expect them to do something which is of quality. I maintain quality because Boeing also has its own reputation to maintain, and it's been there for many years that we know of. We only hear of Boeing and Airbus. So you can't take those chances. Now, of course, there have been series of incidents, series of cases that are coming up, and I'm sure the think tank of Boeing, the technique, the quality assurance team itself is looking into all of these aspects. I think it's not for us to say that, they should change their vendor immediately or look at something else. What they need to do is they need to really introspect and see where they are going wrong, what needs to be done, and there is no compromise on quality. Over to you.
Right, Captain Ishan Khalid. So, is it time for random checks? Because there are still 500 jets still using these faulty parts.
I believe the not the random check, but the complete fleet check
Okay.
is what is needed to be done. And in large parts, some of those checks have already been initiated in at least 34 of the remaining fleet of Air India. That is part of the enhanced checks. But across the world, I think grounding these aircraft and doing additional checks is a lot of cost of money and cost of airline scheduling. Therefore, it is very important that we have a preliminary AIB report that will 100% preclude that there was no issue of overloading, there was no issue of bird hit, and that there was a technical issue. Right now, we are actually talking everything put together and saying this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. We really do not know the reason, and once we know the reason, then I'm sure the entire fleet will be grounded, all checks will be done until such time those things have been found out as to what was the reason for such a problem not removed. The aircraft will not be fly worthy. But till then, these ones, like this particular problem of substandard supply of parts by a particular vendor is in the public domain, in the court domain, in the discussed it at US Congress and Senate level. So Boeing has no choice but to actually correct this point. Otherwise, the whole logic of their insurance would be invalid, and no insurance company will actually will pay the Boeing company. So more than us, Boeing company is bothered to actually correct these small ones, and if they don't do it, then insurance companies aren't fooled to pay, billions of dollars as payout to any kind of an accident. So, according to me, one of the biggest watchdog for flight safety continues to be the insurance companies.